Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into a region that, well, for many, it mainly exists in headlines. But as we've found from the sources you sent over, it's way more complex and captivating than that. Waziristan.
Absolutely. It's got this incredible history of resistance, a really unique cultural identity.
Yeah, a story much richer than you often get. So our mission with this deep dive is pretty straightforward. We want to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, the key insights from this comprehensive collection of sources you gave us.
Right. We've got geography, history, culture, recent developments. It's all in there.
And the idea is to help you understand what Waziristan truly is, beyond those quick news flashes.
Exactly. Think of it as a shortcut to getting properly informed. We want to provide those aha moments, help things click.
We'll guide you through the material, connect the dots, hopefully help you see the bigger picture of this fascinating region.
Couldn't said it better.
Okay, then. Let's unpack this. Where should we start? Maybe the geographical and administrative basics.
Good idea.
Yeah.
So Waziristan. Historically, it's a really vital region within Pakistan's tribal areas.
Right.
And what's really interesting is how its geography has just profoundly shaped its identity, its people.
How so?
Well, traditionally, it was split into two parts, South Waziristan and North Waziristan. That's key.
Okay.
But it's also crucial to know that both these areas have now been merged into the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. That's a major administrative change.
Okay, so that's relatively recent then, the merger.
Yes, part of a larger reform effort.
You mentioned geography shaping identity. Can
Yeah.
you elaborate on that? Thinking about its borders, like the Duran line with Afghanistan to the west?
Yeah, and then Pakistani districts like Banu, Tank, Di Khan to the east.
How does all that play into things?
Well, it's an excellent point. Think about the terrain. It's mostly mountainous,
Yeah.
quite dry, stony in many places.
Right. Challenging.
Very challenging. And that ruggedness, it fostered this fierce independence, a reliance on really tight-knit tribal bonds. Made it incredibly hard for outsiders to exert control throughout history.
So that directly feeds into the identity you mentioned.
Exactly. But it's not all harsh. The sources highlighted some truly beautiful valleys, green areas too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, places like the Shawal Valley, areas around Makin, Gulam, Zarmalan, Burmal, Ragzai, Tadakil.
Mm-hmm.
They offer this real contrast and support vital communities.
Okay, so a tough landscape, but with pockets of, well, beauty in life. Given that, let's get into the culture, because this is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Definitely.
The sources say the population is overwhelmingly Pashtun.
That's right. And the prominent tribes you'll hear about are the Masood, the Wazir, and the Doar.
And the language is Pashto, primarily.
Correct. Pashto is the main language spoken.
What really jumped out at me was the mention of a strong cultural identity, rooted in this robust tribal system.
Yes, and central to that is the Jirga system. It's vital for resolving disputes.
The Jirga. Tell us more about that. It sounds pretty fundamental.
It really is. It's not just some old tradition. It's a living system. Basically, it's a council, usually of elders or respected community figures.
Okay.
They handle disputes. Could be land, family conflicts, almost anything by listening to both sides and finding a resolution based on Pashtun customs, Pashtunwali, and often Islamic principles too.
And this often bypasses formal courts.
In many cases, yes, especially historically where state presence was limited. It relies on community consensus and social pressure to enforce decisions. It really speaks to their self-reliance.
That makes sense. So how binding are these Jirga decisions?
Within the community, very binding. It's enforced by tradition, by honor, by social pressure. It's crucial for maintaining social order.
And this ties into their core values, I imagine. The courses mention Pa and Garat.
Absolutely. Pa, the turban, isn't just headwear. It's a powerful symbol of male honor, status, identity.
Right.
And karat, that's a deep concept. It means honor, dignity, self-respect, but also the duty to protect one's family, community, reputation. These aren't abstract things. They guide daily life.
Fascinating. Hospitality was another big one mentioned.
Immense hospitality.
Hmm.
It's a defining feature, really central to Pashtunwali.
And you also see traditions like folk music, the Atan dance.
Yes, the Atan, especially on special occasions. It's very vibrant. It all points to a culture that's deeply proud of its heritage.
So this deep identity, this strong tribal system, it connects to their history too, right? The sources mention Waziristan as a region of resistance, even back in the British era.
Indeed. That resistance is a constant threat, which brings us maybe to its more recent history and challenges.
Yeah, let's connect those threads, because the period after 2000, that was obviously a very difficult time. The sources detail the huge impact of extremism and terrorism.
Devastating impact, yeah.
And in response, the Pakistani army launched these major operations between, 2004 and 2018 to try and restore peace.
Yes, and if you connect this to the bigger picture, those operations were absolutely pivotal in shaping where the region is today. We're talking about large-scale campaigns.
Like Operation Almazan?
That was one, yes. And then Operation Iranijat in South Waziristan in 2009, that was huge. And Operation Zarb-e-Azd in North Waziristan starting in 2014.
These weren't small things.
Not at all. Massive undertakings. But they came at a cost. One major consequence was displacement.
Right, the IDPs, internally displaced persons.
Exactly. Thousands had to leave their homes, temporarily becoming IDPs within Pakistan. A huge humanitarian challenge.
And what about helping them return, rebuilding?
The sources detail significant government efforts for rehabilitation, for peace building, both during and after these operations. Things are much better now, generally speaking.
But challenges remain.
Oh, absolutely. Rebuilding infrastructure, livelihoods, trust. It's an ongoing process.
And it's not just about the military side of things. The region's also been a hub for social and political movements.
That's true. Figures like Manzoor Pashtun, leader of the Pashtun Talafuz movement, PTM.
Right. He's strongly associated with the area.
Yes, which highlights Waziristan's role as a sort of nexus for broader Pashtun identity issues and rights discussions.
Okay, so we have this deep culture, this complex history. How does religion fit into all this, into daily life?
Religion is deeply interwoven into the fabric of society there. It's fundamental to identity. We learn that most people follow the Deobandi school of thought.
Which is?
It's a reformist movement within Sunni Islam. It generally emphasizes strict adherence to religious texts and practices.
Okay, and that influences daily life. How?
Well, it helps explain the large number of religious seminaries, madrasas, and mosques you find throughout Waziristan. They are key community institutions.
I see.
But there's also a strong reference for Sufi saints and elders, pirs and fakirs. Their spiritual influence is profound. They often act as community anchors, spiritual guides.
So it's not monolithic, religiously speaking. There are different layers.
Exactly.
So what does all this mean for how Waziristan is engaging with the modern world? We've got these deep traditions, this complex history. How is development and modernization playing out?
That's a great question, and the sources suggest it's a period of really dynamic change.
We read that in the past, basic facilities were severely lacking.
Severely. But that's changing, especially after the merger. Development projects, schools, roads, hospitals, they're actively underway now.
So this raises that key question. How are tradition and modernity actually interacting on the ground today?
Well, one clear sign is education. There's a noticeable increasing trend towards education among the youth.
And encouragingly, not just for boys, right? The sources mentioned improvements in girls' education, too.
Yes, that's a really important point. While there were definitely restrictions before, things are gradually improving. More girls are getting access to education.
Which opens up huge possibilities.
Absolutely. And you see many students, both young men and women, pursuing higher education in other parts of Pakistan now. That signals a real shift in aspirations.
That's significant. What about connectivity? That must be a game changer.
Huge. The region used to be deprived of mobile networks, internet, basically cut off in many ways.
Right.
But now, 4G mobile services, they're largely available.
And what impact is that having?
Well, one clear impact is on the youth. They're using social media, raising their voices, engaging in discussions.
So connecting with the wider world, having their say in a new way.
Exactly. It's fostering a whole new dynamic in Waziristani society.
It really does sound like a region in dynamic change then, balancing these deep traditions with totally new aspirations and tools.
That's a good way to put it.
We also learned about the distinctive identity markers. Like for men, the Waziristani cap and the shawl or kameez.
Yes, those are still very common, very recognizable symbols of identity.
And even with modernization, glimpses of the old tribal system are still there.
Oh, yes. It's not like it just vanished. In some areas, those traditional structures and ways of doing things are still quite visible. They endure, they adapt.
But norms are evolving. The sources made an important point about the jirga system and even practices like child marriage.
Which were common in some areas previously, yes.
But now, there's a voice being raised against those practices from within the community.
Precisely. That's a crucial shift. driven by education, by access to information, by evolving social awareness. People are questioning and challenging some of the old ways.
Wow. Okay. So wrapping this up, we hope this deep dive has offered you, the listener, a richer, maybe more nuanced view of Waziristan and its people.
Yeah, moving beyond just the headlines.
From its history of resistance and these deep tribal roots to its current path navigating development, modernization, it's clearly undergoing a massive transformation.
It really is. Balancing that unique heritage with, the pressures and opportunities of the modern world.
There's always more to learn, isn't there? And Waziristan definitely seems like a place that invites that curiosity.
Absolutely. And it may be a final thought for you to consider, reflecting on everything we've discussed.
Go on.
How do communities like this navigate that really complex process? Developing, integrating, but also trying hard to hold on to their unique cultural identity, their traditions, especially when some of those internal norms are themselves changing.
That's a powerful question. How do you preserve identity while embracing change? Something to definitely mull over.